Hi everyone and welcome along. Now, so many of you enjoyed our bear in the forest last week. My dad even just texted me, even he watched it. So today we are going to do a lovely simple winter landscape, and we're going to try painting a deer this time as well. So grab your paints and let's get started. So I've taped down my paper because we're going to do a nice sort of use of wet washes. Are there any other kind? I don't think so. And I'm going to begin by drawing a water line. So that's where the lake is going to meet the snow. And I'm just going to draw in a few trees that are going to soar up out of the piece. And I'm going to just get in a snowy horizon line as well, so we know some really thin ones at the back. It's perfect if you're not very good at drawing straight lines. You can see it doesn't really matter, but if you want a bit of help, I mean, I like the wobble, so I don't want to say get a ruler. But essentially, in creating these columns, if they're sort of coming down towards the front, they want to be that little bit thicker because they're a bit bigger. And if they're up towards the back, they're going to be a bit smaller and thinner, and they just taper out a fraction at the back. And we're going to draw a deer in here. Now, I do want to say, if you're interested in animal drawing and painting, you must have a look at my second book, Birds, Bees and Blossoms. Oh look, there just happens to be a stag on the front. But there's loads of animal paintings, as well as insects and flowers and birds. There's so much in here, as well as some lovely seasonal flowers and things. Yeah, plants, animals and birds from around the world in my second book, Birds, Bees and Blossoms, and you can get signed copies in my Etsy shop. But let me just get this drawn in before I just stop plugging all the products. But you know, I like to let you know about these things. So we're going to start with a little oval, which is going to be the back legs, and I'm going to sort of come down, and our oval for the sort of shoulders and legs in the front is going to just be a little bit lower because we're going to have our deer coming down and looking at the water. So there goes the neck down over the top. But let's go back to the body. So there's our sort of tummy shape, and we're going to get a leg following that curve there and get it in there. And they usually have quite a sort of slightly pointy rump. So we'll get that leg and then a lovely spindly leg there and one in behind, so imagining to steady itself, maybe just a little bit further back like that. You usually get a feel for whether it looks and feels right or not. And then this one, the little elbow coming up, coming right down, and because it's a little bit far away, we're not seeing a huge amount of it, I'm sort of drawing it quite detailed, but we're going to lightly sort of rub it out, and we'll be simplifying it as we draw it, a bit like our bear last week. So if we imagine the head, top of the head like that, and then we're going to just create a nice little snout. And we'll get some ears. Ears always help with sort of, if you've got something looking a bit wonky and weird, placing in the ears always helps. And then we'll just plop those in we'll put eyes and things in later on, but that is looking pretty good for our deer. So what we want to do is give it a light rubbing out with a putty rubber and our trees, and we can get painting. I've got a large size 12 connoisseur pointed round, which you can also get in the Etsy shop if you need one. It's just a really fantastic brush for it. It works as a mop, it works for large areas, but it also got a nice pointed end, so it means you can do some detail if you need. So this is Moon Glow, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in the background area just onto a dry page. Very diluted. Very simple really, just a single colour, nice and dilute, get it on, and instantly we've got a snowy landscape. How good is that? So we let that dry 100%, just make sure you've got a nice even wash, no puddles of water on the page. So just scooping up a little bit of water there, and whilst that dries I'm going to mix up some colour for the trees. Now I want this to be a really cold, dark scene, so instead of just your regular brown, I'm going to get quite a lot of Payne's grey there, and then a bit of burnt sienna to create a very dark tree colour. So we'll wait till this dries and then we can paint in our trees. So with our mix, we'll paint this tree. We begin, I've got a size 6 brush, so you can see it's very important that the page has dried because you want nice crisp edges. You use quite a lot of the paint, so you'll probably end up needing to mix more quite quickly. So I'm coming down and I'm hoping that my brush is going to dry out a bit. There we go. Because to get this kind of effect, we need the brush to run out of paint. So if you've got too much paint, just give it a wipe on there. There we go. And we've got that nice texture, scrappy texture on there. And then I've just got some Payne's grey, quite concentrated, and just bringing it down on another layer. Starting on one side, and of course you can use this to create the shape to be, if it's not quite what you want, and then just using streaks of it to create a nice texture on your tree. I want the trees in the foreground to be much heavier and darker, which will help convey the sense that they are in the foreground. So if I just take some of this quite dilute tree wash and pop that in, this one's going to be sort of over the other side of the hill, so we don't see the base of it. We can just paint that in and leave it. We don't need any darker low light on it. Having painted in all those trees, I've just added one really faint one, and I want to add one or two more, just really ghostly off in the distance. So I'm just painting that in, and then when I get down to the bottom, just clean my brush off a little, because if it's really far away, it's likely that it's over the hill. I think that's nice. Okay, so we can get on with our deer, and I just want to give it one extra little rub out because I drew it quite heavily, and it's important not to have too much pencil before you start painting something. You could use a water-soluble graphite pencil that fades out as you use it. I've tried them, they're okay, like some people love them. It's very much a personal choice really, isn't it? So I'm just waking up all the browns in my palette. I've got raw umber up here, yellow ochre, and of course we've got our burnt sienna there. And what I'm going to do is start with some light colours first, and that will also include the greys. And I've got a size 2 brush, and I am just going to start to paint this animal with the contours of the body. So I'm looking at where the light would bounce off the angles, and just starting with that, starting with my lighter colours, you can always build them up. Okay, I'm going to now try a bit of raw umber and start whilst it's still a little wet. And now some burnt sienna and maybe a bit of Payne's grey to just start to really find the shadowy bits. And once I've done a sort of a round of this, I'll let it dry and we'll go in with a smaller brush, a more concentrated colour, and we'll get a little more detail in there, but at the moment I'm really happy with that. So it's time to add a smaller brush. I've got a size 0 here, and I've just upped the concentration of some of the colours I'm using, and I am going to start to paint in a little bit more detail. Again, I'm just sort of following the contours of the body, really. But yeah, suddenly we've got ourselves a much darker bit of colour, and we're also going to see the sort of shadowy darker leg at the back. And then I'm going to bring in some Mars Black for the hooves. And just a little bit of this just brown, it's a burnt sienna Payne's grey mix. It's almost about what you don't paint that really makes the difference here. Yeah, it's really tempting to just like get in there and put in loads, but I think that's quite enough. So whilst that is drying, let's think about the finishing touches, which is the reflection. So I'm going to get my moon glow back, and what I want to do is, I need my tree mix, which is sort of that, like a bit more Payne's grey in it. There we go. Okay, first off, I always find what's quite striking is you get a very crisp dark edge of the water hitting the bank. So with my size 2 brush and some moon glow, I'm going to attempt to paint along the line and then quickly take a large brush, a large wet brush I should say, with some clean water. So you want to make sure your water is clean. Okay, nice. I'm just telling myself this is a bit of a pep talk for myself. Okay, then that's wet now. So of course anything we paint in is going to be a bit soft and fuzzy. But that's kind of useful when you're painting reflections. So you can see I'm painting a line that is much narrower than the one up above, but I'm just placing in the shapes. You might be able to see that one. And I'm just going to leave them like that, and I'm going to paint in the deer as well. And that's lovely and faint. And as it slowly dries, I'm going to build up the concentration of colour. So I'm going to do that, 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 and that. And then I will add just a little. A little sort of underside shadow there on the deer. And now with a clean wet brush, I want to just, this is a little bit of nerve-wracking, this bit, because you feel like, oh, I've done a really nice thing and now I'm going to mess it up. You're not going to mess it up. I will just say that. But keep your brush angled low to the page. And we're just going to just pick up a few little ripples on our trees. I'm just going to make that one a tiny bit wider and that one a tiny bit wider as well, so that you get some of the horizontal ripple, but then you sort of take some of it away as you even up the piece. So I suppose the only other thing to think about is maybe the tiniest bit of maybe texture in the snow. So with a bit of moon glow, maybe just around the base of some of the trees, very, very faintly. And I think that's rather lovely. So we're going to finish there. I'm going to let it dry 100%, rub out the pencil and see what's left. And there you go. I'm absolutely thrilled with that. I really hope you enjoyed painting that with me. It's perfect for the winter that is still hanging around. I know some of you are experiencing sub 30 degrees Celsius. I hope you're all keeping safe and warm, and I hope this will entertain you if you can't go out, if you're snowed in. Thank you so much to my patrons for their support. That support enables us to keep creating videos like these that everyone can enjoy. And if you enjoyed it, then hit the like button, comment below and let me know how you got on with that one. And of course, if you've enjoyed animal painting, don't forget I've got plenty more animal illustrations in the illustration playlist, and of course in my books. The second two, Birds, Bees and Blossoms and A Year of Watercolour, have some lovely animal tutorials as well. So I'll see you again next time. Bye!